Hi, it's Andrea Foulkes. I haven't made some videos for a while, so I just want to talk a little bit about my experience and spirituality and experience. Because that's what you need in life. You know, when we think they should know better, they shouldn't do that. It's difficult to know better until we keep having experiences that we don't like. And we see that we don't like what's happening in the experience, then we're empowered to change it. Everything is conceptual until you have an experience. And it's like, for those of you who know that I put a fixed brace on my teeth in October, and now it's like the 1st of December and I took it off yesterday. Oh my God, that was a whole story. A world of pain, a world of life lessons from the experience of the brace. And obviously, I'm back to where I started. My teeth might look straight to you, but actually they're slightly off. But anyway, I have done a video about that and I might upload it here. It is, as it stands on the 1st of December, only on Facebook. But moving on to the bigger picture, experience and spirituality. That's what you need. I see so many people, and I've been doing this work now really from experience. I was very lucky 13 years ago, big awakening, boofed, channeling star beings from other dimensions that I knew nothing about any of that. But basically, I was having an experience before I read books and information. So I wasn't sort of cramming intellectual spirituality into my mind. I was having experiences and then being guided to information to back up my experiences. And I think a lot of people on their spiritual journey are getting a little bit sidetracked. They're filling themselves with so many different sources of information on spirituality that they've actually got confused. And there are a lot of speakers on spirituality out there, and there's a lot of YouTubers giving information on spirituality, authors giving information on spirituality. And, they all sound, very convincing. But there are very few of those people who are spouting all this stuff, who are really going out there and actually working with other humans on a one-to-one level and sharing from that collective experience of working with other humans what's actually happening. And for me personally, that's actually been one of the greatest gifts to myself in the last 13 years, and the greatest gift really, I think I'll step it up in 2014 and I'll be sharing more about my experience of being in this fairly unique situation of being able to regress into altered states of consciousness. Hundreds, thousands of people over the last 12 years. And I created that reality for myself by circumstances and showing up synchronistically for myself. To have got myself in that situation where I ended up with a TV show and I ended up with 1,000 people a day emailing me wanting client sessions. Of course, I apologise if I have never seen you and you gave up wanting an appointment because you thought, oh, they never got back to me. I was put on a waiting list probably 8 years ago or something. I am taking on clients. I just could never get to the bottom of the waiting list. And of course, people are quite fickle. They're interested in something while it's on TV. And then when you contact them maybe a couple of years later, they've forgotten they ever wanted to be on a waiting list. But the experience that I've had of regressing people in altered states of consciousness with actually not having at that point in time when I started really filled my head with much intellectual information from too many books. I hadn't read too many books. I just cracked on basically with regressing people and, opened myself up to this amazing experience. And of course, from the TV perspective, they were researching to check, do these past lives add up? And of course, sometimes they weren't adding up, and I wanted to understand why the past lives weren't adding up. And that's when I really started to add into the work that I did, spirit releasement. And I found that I had to do that because some of the past lives that people were throwing up really weren't theirs. They were other entities' consciousness. Sometimes they were off-planet entities' consciousness. Sometimes they were earthbound spirits' consciousness. So over maybe the coming videos going forward, I want to share maybe a bit more about entities, a bit more about ET consciousness of other planets that had been attached to humans that I don't now actually see in 2013 happening or being attached to humans anymore. We are all hybrid species on this planet. We are eternal beings. Our consciousness is eternal. That's maybe been one of the biggest cover-ups that there ever was, that we are eternal consciousness. It's not just one trip round and you're out of here. It might be one trip round in this physical body and you're out of here. But also so much of that has been not really. The truth has been told to you. And we're waking up to that now, you know, new experiences through you almost voyeuring other people's experiences in them, expanding their consciousness. They're changing their diets, they're changing their belief systems, their thoughts. You're starting to see that you can stay in a physical body for maybe a lot longer than the mainstream consciousness of society has told you. You can stay in this physical body in much better physical shape and age not as rapidly as mass society would have you believe. You don't manifest disease and illness as a byproduct of getting older. You manifest disease and illness as a byproduct of negative beliefs and thought patterns starting to take their physical toll on your body if you don't change them. You know, when you come out of alignment with source and your higher self, your body will create an experience for you to show you you are out of alignment with source and your own personal higher self. So you can bring in a cosmic light, but if your body isn't in alignment with your cosmic light, you will create a block of energy in your physical body, which may well manifest itself as a negative emotion. And if you give it long enough, it's going to manifest as a dis-ease within your body. And mainstream society will, you know, tell you need to take drugs or you need to be cut open. Whereas, you know, the more spiritual, holistic medicine will say you need to deal with the emotion. You need to go inside yourself and do a lot of the inner journey work. And that's the work I do with people. Go into that inner journey work and find out the origin, the first time in your cell memory you created that belief in your timeline. You know, this life, past life, ancestral. Go into the timeline, clear it out from the origin, and that will release it. So much of people's spiritual journey is based on, you know, reading all this information about other star systems, conflicting thoughts and beliefs from some of the authors as well. Because don't forget, some of the authors are writing about their experiences of multi-dimensions based on where their core consciousness is at. So if they're somebody who holds great fear in their consciousness, that will be reflected in their experience, and so therefore the information they share in their books. And if they can't heal their own physical body, you know, if they're not in great physical health and shape and well-being and looking younger than their age, you know, even some of the big mainstream authors out there with big publishing houses, you know, these people are not in great physical shape and well-being yourself. And I know some of you have shared with me, you know, oh, you know, I saw the great picture of them on their book and then I met them and they were like, whoa, they look nothing like that. And of course they don't look anything like that, because what's happened with some big time authors and some big time spiritual teachers is they got a big download and they wrote their book and they raced on out there to share it. A bit like what happened with me. I had a major awakening, a big download, and I was catapulted very quickly into the media, onto TV. And I took an unusual route. I didn't start to write books. Yeah, I made a CD and, I carried on working with one-to-one people. So I got this vast experience of one-to-one people, which is what I needed for my own soul growth to really maybe be in a space now in 2014, X years later, from 2000 to now is a long time of regressing people. And it was amplified once I went on TV in January 2004. So I continued regressing people. I didn't stop and write my book then. I continued regressing people. So some of the people doing this circuit globally, they did a little bit of inner journey work either on themselves or they worked with other people and they shared that experience with you. But then they stopped doing the inner journey work on themselves because the circuit that they got involved in and the contracts that they got involved in meant they had to keep showing up for other people. And from my experience and my experience of working with clients right now in around 2013, to really clear out the core of your issues, it's going to be an ongoing process, but you need to make space in your life for your emotional self to drop down to access the emotions you need to clear out. And you need to make space in your life to allow those emotions to be released. If you need to cry for half a day to release that, you need to do that. I don't know what your circumstance is. If you have a 9-to-5 job and a family and children, it's very difficult to add this time in to show up for yourself. It's not impossible, but you have to put working on yourself as a primary issue. And fear about abundance coming to you, you have to sort of let that go because we are eternally abundant. Okay, mainstream society wants you to believe in a scarcity of finances. There isn't a scarcity of finances. There's a scarcity of resources on the planet, water predominantly, and, good healthy food. There may well be a scarcity of that because we haven't maintained it properly. But experiences is telling us that we need to look after the ecosystem. We need to create water, healthy, clean water for ourselves and food. So we can manifest those things for ourselves. So our time management has to be looked at differently, and we can make that space for ourselves. And we can have the experience of going deep inside ourselves, which is what we need to do now in this point in our evolution of consciousness. We need to clear the backlog out of negative emotions so the timeline that you will tune into will be reflective of your inner state. Remember, what you see out there in the universe is a reflection of your emotional inner state. So if you don't like what you're seeing out there, you have to change you. As you work on you, your core reality will get to be a higher vibration, and you will exist in that vibration. You will still have an awareness of the mass consciousness's reality. But what we're working towards now, by working on ourselves individually, is we are going to change the reality that the mass consciousness are living in, because you can't change the collective consciousness of humanity as an individual. You can't change humanity's reality, by trying to change all the things out in there that you are voyeuring. You change what you see out there by encouraging individuals to change the inner self, because when we change the inner self, all the things that we were unconsciously trotting around doing, I've done it, you've done it, we've all done it. We don't think the consequences of our actions, but once we start to change the inner self, we become expanded, we become visionary. We're like, that's crazy, you can't do that anymore. You can't, continue eating the animals. That's just, love doesn't do that. The sentient beings have a right to exist on this planet too. We are evolving out of this limited reality of thinking we need to eat animals to survive. We're actually realizing now, yes, you can eat animals to survive, but you won't thrive. To thrive now, we need to be eating plant-based plants in you don't have to go 100% raw, but you have to be getting the primary source of the food that you eat has to come out of, Gaia, out of the new vibration of Earth, and a big percentage of that needs to be raw for your health and well-being. Also, your thinking. You don't just become into a higher state of consciousness just by eating raw food and going 100% raw. That doesn't do it. It's an inner emotional journey work that has to be done as well. And everybody's at a different starting point. But whether it's changing your diet, changing your lifestyle, because your lifestyle has to change, and it will change as a byproduct of a commitment to choosing to love yourself more and to start doing the emotional inner journey work, whether it's guided meditation, which I would highly recommend if you've never done that. Let that be your starting point in inner journey work. If you're not ready to go to a workshop, go to a talk, just buy a guided meditation. It doesn't have to be mine, but it could be mine. I'll put the link below. It could be mine because it would take you through your chakras and letting go of negative emotions. That is the best thing you can start to do, meditating and going inward, not into oblivion. That's why I keep saying guided meditation is one of the best things you can do. A commitment to loving yourself more and new experiences. Consider the experiences you're having and whether they're working for you. And if you don't like the experiences that you're drawing into your reality, then you have to change your core thoughts and beliefs. And that comes from going to the origin. A lot of therapies will try to program you to think more positively. And it's kind of a bit like trying to put a sticky plaster on an open wound with gravel in it, and you haven't cleared the gravel out, you haven't cleaned out the wound. So the work that I do takes you back to the source of the gravel, the source of the origin of the wound, cleans it, and then we put a sticking plaster to heal it over the top, so we change our thoughts and beliefs. We're not trying to change our thoughts and beliefs with this festering wounds still inside because you haven't got to the origin of your core issue, which is still running inside. You're just trying to put a positive core belief on top of a crap core belief, and it doesn't really work. So it's false economy to spend money doing therapies that just put positive thoughts in your head without clearing the origin of the negative thoughts out. So I would highly recommend that to be a good starting point for you. Experience, as the title of this is, experience and spirituality, is really what you need to evolve. You need an experience. You can't not create an experience to evolve. You can intellectually read all that stuff, but get out there, have an experience. Yeah, it's going to be like, oh my God, stuff coming at you, because you need experience to challenge you, to see, to compare, what do I want in my reality? What do I not want in my reality? And you can, I promise you, you can change whatever you were born or incarnated into. If you don't like it, you can evolve and change out of it. Once you learn what that experience brought you, you get the life lesson of that experience, and you get the aha moment, and you move on to the next experience, because life is a journey and we are evolving into our multidimensional selves. This is our divinity. This is who we truly are. And it's time to awaken to that now. So look at this great. It might be tacky, but I think it's gorgeous. Look at the Christmas angel. Or not even the Christmas angel, because that's a whole other story, talking about, Christmas and the history of Christmas. Again, we're evolving, we're letting go of these stories that we thought were a truth, but actually we don't even know the origin of them. So we're finding out the true history, her story, the goddess story on the planet that has been denied you. It has been a truth that has been wiped out of your memory bank. It's in you, but it's got to be reignited by hearing the true history of humanity. combined with the history of humanity. And once you start to get into the feeling center in you, let's pop her back, you're gonna know in your being what feels to be the truth, but you've got to be able to feel, to discern the difference. So anyway, I think that's enough for today. I hope this will upload because it's kind of 20 minutes. Check my website out below. Check out my Facebook page. There are lots of videos on YouTube of me regressing people back to past lives. The work that I do on a personal level is a lot deeper than the regressions you'll see on YouTube. You know, they're not so much for a healing, deep spiritual level, which is what I do in private practice and the work that I do on Skype in assisting people clearing timelines and working with light language as well, which is the language of your soul. It is the language that all cultures, everybody in the world can understand, light language, because it comes straight into your heart and the core of your being. And so there are clips on light language activations and clearing as well. Many blessings. Thank you for listening.